Thank you for staying with us on G20 Overview. Now we're getting into our main topic. The energy transition is a working group under the Indonesia's G20 presidency has held a series of meetings to discuss various efforts and initiatives to accelerate the transition to lower carbon energy system, including investment and innovation in cleaner and more efficient technologies.
So here, not only me and Arif, who are present today, we have our guests for today. Next to me is John M. Williams, the CEO of Earthonomy, and also Mr. Reza Valdo Mas Patela. Okay, I hope I didn't say your name wrong. The CEO, the president and CEO of PT Valdo Investama. So, how are you today, gentlemen?
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you for being here, being present, and joining us at the G20 overview. So today we are going to talk about something quite special, and it's one of the pillars of the G20 Indonesia's presidency. And I believe this is your field of expertise. So we would like to ask you, I will go first with you, John. We heard that you are engaged in business related to low carbon energy, and regarding this G20's low carbon agenda, what kind of approaches you think that should be taken so that the energy transition will not become a burden for developing countries, especially in Indonesia?
Right. Well, right now, generating energy through renewable energy is it's cheaper now than using fossil fuels. Okay, so and that's without government intervention. It's cheaper now. Okay, so and that's because of near marginal costs, very low marginal costs, and because of that, there's a it's more cost efficient, and so there's an advantage over fossil fuels.
Okay.
Right. You said it's cheaper, right?
Yes.
You say it's cheaper, but would that be affordable for developing countries, you think? The technology I'm talking about.
Well, basically though, fossil fuel companies have had an advantage because there's been investment for over 150 years in fossil fuels. So right now, the main issue is investment. So basically, that's the main hurdle right now is investment.
Okay, but Reza, if you would like to add something, please go ahead. And what do you think about that? Like energy transition would be a burden for Indonesia because as we still a developing country.
Yeah, well, of course, Indonesia has a lot of energy sources. And renewable energy is also one of the potential sources that Indonesia has. You mentioned earlier on your discussion about the hydropower potential. Yeah. We're big also on geothermal, for example, and also from the commodities like coal, of course, right? So for Indonesia, we have actually option in terms of how moving forward for us to be effective and efficient in managing the use of the energy. But I think under the presidency of Pak Jokowi, we are very committed in terms of Indonesia for the energy transition, and a lot of things is being conducted in Indonesia, not only from the governmental level but also on the business level. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you think that the government has been helping to support this mission to be effectively
considering the transition that will be quite costly in it. So do you think the government need to supply sort of incentive for providing sort of technology for developing countries, or probably not quite a big business, because I know you run your own business. What do you think about this?
Yes, of course, this initiative on the energy transition is all new for everyone, right, in terms of how to do it effectively and also efficiently. And I think at the moment, countries like Indonesia, even though in terms of our carbon footprint,
Yeah.
is not as big. You know, we're still under the average, right? About 23% compared to you know the bigger developed countries. So having said that, even though we are still on the lowest level, we are still committed in terms of the implementation. And I think not only that the government is supporting on different kind of policies and also future incentive, but the private sectors have, through Kadin, have the commitment in terms of how to, now instead of asking from government to support this and that, but as a private sector, we are also already taking steps of proactive step in terms of what can we do, you know, from the things that that we can do from our capacity in terms of supporting the transition.
Yeah, since we're still talking about this, like the government regulation is supporting the net zero emission, and also has it been effective enough to achieve the net zero emissions?
Of course, the journey was still in the early stage of the journey. Of course, there's a lot more that can be done, of course. But I think the process is moving. Yeah. So
Okay.
so I think we're going to be going in the right direction, though, at least.
Okay. So in 2060 or even earlier,
Yeah.
you think we can reach to that destination, to that goal?
Yeah. That's why Indonesia is having two type of goals, right? The achievement that we can conduct by ourselves, but we can even do faster by the support of the developed nation. And I think that's why it's important during an event like this in terms of how we can collaborate together, of having the commitment also from the developed countries in supporting the developing countries.
Okay. I want to go to Mr. Williams. You know, obviously you're running a business, you have your own company, right? And what do you think about the government's policies? You know, for instance, if you want to collaborate, your company would like to collaborate with other companies from different countries in general about the government's regulation.
Okay. Indonesian?
Oh, let's make it more specific if you would like to.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Indonesia, I see that they really have embraced this concept of going to net zero as quickly
That
as
sounds
possible.
really good.
Yeah, I think there seems to be a really large consensus on this. In the United States, I think it's there's a little bit more political issues with that, but I think the United States is very committed as well. And I think regulations help, but I would say that Earthonomy's focus is more on the grassroots side of things. Grassroots as far as individuals and then also companies, because basically companies and individuals can take it upon themselves to decarbonize.
Yeah. So if we get into more specific, especially in this G20, the summit as well, like how do you think, is it like effective enough like to only use the electric vehicles during the summit and everything? Is it how the correlation with the net zero emissions too?
Well, I think the fact that they're using electric vehicles, it shows that that there's a focus on it. You know, I mean, clearly we need to scale this out a lot more than just this, and I think the issue has been scaling this transition to a circular economy, and that's what my platform is. That's the purpose of the platform, is to automate and scale.
Okay. Oh, we would like to go into and talk about the platform that you have. But how about you, Pak Reza, if you have any point of view on the net zero emission in this G20, especially in the summit that is happening in the
government
upcoming
has
days?
provided some examples, you
Yeah.
know, the use of electric vehicles and also mangrove plantings
Yes.
that can
Welcome.
be potentially exemplified by other countries.
Yeah.
I'm really sure about it. What do you think about that?
Yes. I think the Indonesian presidency have really set the tone, in terms of not only the commitment of Indonesia in terms of the energy transition, the net zero carbon emission, and yes, just by, if you see the mangrove being planted, right, just as your airplane is landing with the G20 sign, that is already, you know, this small little thing is actually showing the commitment of Indonesia, but at the same time also to ask, you know, many other countries to participate on this theme of not only the energy transition and our concern for the climate change. So I think the tone setting is incredibly being done tremendously by Indonesia, and of course by the support of all the 20 other countries.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. we can very agree on that. And like, do you have anything that you think this is like 100% ready, like Indonesia ready to welcome the other delegates and also the state leaders that are coming, maybe like
They're coming
starting
really soon.
tomorrow?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you mention that when your plan lands, you will see like the mangrove planting, the G20, it will be like a welcoming for them. So you think like Indonesia G20 being a host for G20 this year has been a success?
Yes, a very good question. I think the event of the G20, as this is the summit, right? So
Yeah.
really the peak of everything. But it's been going on since few months already, right? Probably in the second quarter of this year. So you have seen many side event activities, preparation, ministerial meetings has been conducted, going into the summit. So that itself shows that actually Indonesia is ready, not only for today, but also really in preparing before even the side event started. So I think we are ready. Yesterday there's a B20 investment summit already.
Yeah.
That's another example of bringing in thousands of CEO, business leader from around the world. Being present. That's also another example that we are ready to host our partner countries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like even for us as Indonesians, we're still amazed, and maybe Mr. Williams would like to also add,
Yeah.
like how did you feel when you got into Bali and
For the
then
first
feel
time.
welcome for this event?
Yeah, I was really impressed with the Net Zero Hub's organization as far as organizing the whole event. There was quite a few people at this event from all parts, public and private, and very very much there's a consensus here that there's a lot we can do.
Yeah, and yesterday I witnessed myself, the summit, Net Zero Summit, where, the government, all stakeholders working together and, working out for tackling out the issue about industrial decarbonization and things like that.
Yes.
But we don't find out more about your own companies as you get involved heavily. You come here, surely you have something to contribute on G20 G20 Forum presidency this time. I want to go more specifically on your company, Earthonomy. Am I pronouncing your company right?
Yes, Earthonomy.
Okay, Earthonomy.
Yes.
So what actually, what you would like to aim in for with Earthonomy, and if you can relate it with the G20 presidency?
Well, basically, we need to scale and automate, okay? Because I think the transition to net zero has been slow over the last few decades.
Okay.
We've known about this for quite a while now, and so that's the focus of the platform, is to use software automation to help facilitate the circular economy, the
Automation.
transition to a circular economy.
So it is actually a digital platform.
It is.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
yes. And it's a tech stack. So basically, there's various, the framework. It has a social networking framework, and then within the platform, there's various apps within the platform. The primary app right now is allowing people to calculate their carbon footprint, which creates an
Oh, that would
awareness.
be really great.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's for individuals and companies. They'll be able to calculate their carbon footprint, which creates an awareness. So there's a lesson in education as part of it, because a lot of people don't really know about what a carbon
Exactly.
footprint is. And so, once they calculate the carbon footprint, then they can actually do something to mitigate their carbon footprint, and they can take it upon themselves to do so. They can offset their carbon footprint by subscribing to the platform. And when they do this, they can pay a subscription of monthly or annually, and then basically they get a badge on their profile that says that they're carbon neutral. okay?
Yep.
And so, so 80% of the money that we collect from the subscriptions goes to direct mitigation of their carbon footprint. Planting trees, carbon capture, investing in renewable energy, things like that.
Yeah, so you really are on the mission, and through this app, like nowadays we are inseparable with our gadget. So it's actually quite interesting that you developed this application, because everything that the changes that we have to make this like net zero emissions, and then calculating our own carbon footprint, it has to be from ourselves. It has to start from ourselves. Like Pak Reza, maybe you would like to add as well, because we talked about that earlier. Because, and I couldn't agree more with you. Like maybe the government has already have this regulations, but how to promoting it, how to like educate the larger population, the larger people in Indonesia especially, because it has to be start within ourselves, like as simple as that.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, you're very, very correct. Yeah. So talking about energy transition, talking about carbon neutral, it's not just the responsibility of the government, right? But it's the responsibility of all of us. And that is the beauty of the technology solution or digital tech that's being developed by Earthonomy, because it's helped all of us in terms to understand what is actually, carbon footprint, what is actually climate change, for example. And at the same time also is engaging all of us as an individual, as a corporation, but also as a government, in terms of how we can together, work this one out in terms of preparing the world for a better world in terms of the carbon neutral aspect. So that's why, like being mentioned by John earlier, he mentioned that we can start by ourselves, where we start to be responsible for the world, by start calculating what is our carbon footprint as an individual in terms of the way we live, right? That's why John said after we know that, the scoring, for example, then we can start saying, okay, how am I going to change my lifestyle so that I'm not polluting the world again, or even make it more bigger, but I'm starting to participate to neutralize my carbon footprint that I have today. So if we start from the level of individual, then the impact is going to be bigger. Because if we just wait from the government or from the business to change, it's going to take a while. But if everyone is taking part of it, we're going to create this to become a better world. So the key word is that Earthonomy is helping that everyone can participate to create a better world for our children.
Okay.
We still have more things to discuss about, right?
Right.
It's getting more interesting and interesting, but we will be back on
Have a little
G20
break.
overview. Okay, still on G20 overview, that we are having a very interesting
This is the main topic for today.
discussion together with John M. Williams, the CEO of Earthonomy, and also Pak Reza Valdo as the CEO of PT Valdo Investama. So we talked about their companies, your company Earthology, and then we are now talking about the how to lower the carbon agenda, especially here in the G20 Indonesia presidency. It's one of the main pillars that we would like to have, like it should be like the energy sustainability and everything. And
and I noticed the latest report has mentioned that you're about to sign an agreement with the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, right, Kadin, about the Zero Hub.
Yes.
Would you please elaborate more about it, information?
Well, yes, we have been in talks over the last few weeks, and they are interested in using Earthonomy to help automate and scale their efforts. They have an ecosystem that they put together with industry and companies to help with that, sustainability companies. And Earthonomy can assist in the providing a platform to be able to automate and scale those
Okay.
efforts.
Yeah, and especially in Indonesia, that we have the goal to be like net zero in 2060. Like, how do you see it? How do you see your company, Earthology, and app to help that to achieve the goal?
To be compatible with
Right. Well,
current condition.
Earthonomy.
Yeah.
Earthonomy. Basically, I think a big issue has been onboarding companies into this new circular economy. And so, so the idea is that the platform will provide, it's in our technology roadmap, provide a means for, for individual people who are interested in helping this, being part of it, going in and becoming educated in circular economics, in sustainability, and becoming Earthonomy sustainability coaches and getting certified. Once they'll actually be able to do all the education and the courses through the platform. Once they get certified, then they are allowed to go and help onboard businesses into the platform.
Okay.
Okay. I want to go to Pak Reza.
Yeah, sure.
Pak Reza, you run your own business, you're a business person, obviously. And how do you relate your business with the focus, one of the main pillars of G20 presidency this time, which is about the industrial decarbonization, or let's say in a simple way, low energy transition?
Yes, you're right. As you know, there's three things, right? The Indonesia presidency is focusing on the infrastructure, the healthcare, the digital transformation, and then, as you mentioned, on the energy transition. So, in relation to that, being a fund management company, investment company, we are prioritizing and also set our direction of investment is in relating to this three topics itself. So, and also in the subject of sustainability.
Yeah.
So we focus on sustainable agro, sustainable fishery, also on the renewable energy. Of course, related also like autonomy in terms of the tech itself, and also healthcare. So that is the focus of our investment area. So by participating in the sustainable, in the circular economy, in the energy transition, actually is our way of saying how we are taking part, in the journey of the nation, but also the journey of the global world in terms of creating a better world for our children of the future. So our theme is that how do we create the sustainable communities of the future? That is basically the center of
The
our
basic
theme
foundation.
of investment.
Okay, so do you think that's what match your company and your company together? And then, so you just signed a agreement and memorandum of understanding just yesterday, right?
Yes.
You can tell us more about it, like you can share it with our viewers as well. What is it about, and the mission, how you two collaborate to help this mission to be about net zero.
Well, his company has agreed to invest $5 million into Earthonomy to help us expand the application's capabilities and to help with onboarding into the platform.
And how Pak Reza found out about Earthonomy, and you decide that, okay, this is it. Yeah.
What makes you really optimistic that you can achieve your goals, when you see the profile of Earthonomy?
Yeah. So when I heard the first time I heard from my team member about Earthonomy, and I think there was a discussion in the clubhouse, if I'm not mistaken, right? So again, this new era of how people are meeting each other, right? So from there, then I got the opportunity to learn about their background, and then we have our first Zoom meeting, right? And then from there, I make a visit to Washington, D.C. to meet John, and we have the discussion about it, about Earthonomy itself. After understanding and learning about Earthonomy, I feel that this would be a good foundational platform in terms of our initiative in regarding to the sustainable or energy transition type of investment. What do I mean by that? For example, if for us to do a sustainable investment or sustainable financing initiative, it is important to know that our client is also having the carbon footprint or the initiative, the roadmap, in terms of doing the carbon neutral, right?
Yeah.
So by having a foundational platform like Autonomy that is basically assisting individual, assisting corporation, and also having to have them a certain standard, that's going to help us assist us, or not only us as an investment company, but also banks, banking and financial institution that's going to support the sustainable finance or sustainable investment through a platform like this. So we will be assisted, just like a credit scoring, a credit bureau initiative like credit scoring, right? So this is going to really assist us in terms of how we do a better investment or better sustainable financing in the future.
Okay, so you were the one who found out about that and reaching out first. You made the first move on Autonomy. And when was it, the process, and how long was it take?
Was that about 6 months? probably?
Six
Oh,
It's been
okay.
about 6 months.
6 months, right?
I thought when you said like it was the first time we met virtually on Zoom, had a
Yeah.
meeting, and then you flew to Washington D.C. to meet
Right.
in person.
Right.
Maybe it took years until you reached the yesterday's and
Yeah.
signed the MOU.
Yeah.
So
Because I don't want him to go anywhere, right? That's why I gotta be fast, right?
yeah, you gotta act now.
That's right. That's right.
What makes you really
Yeah.
optimistic to collaborate with,
I think Reza, I think he gets it. I think he gets it. Plus, he has a strong background in finance,
Okay.
and I think finance is a very important part of this process. And so he contributes greatly on that area as well. And plus, he's a visionary.
Okay, so
like-
technology and finance working together, that would be, you think,
Yeah,
ideal.
and his leadership as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a good leader. So that's another.
Does it
area.
also have to do with like the developed country and also developing country Indonesia, like working together? It's like a collaboration between those countries, like your company Autonomy with Pak Reza's. So will that be something that has a impact or something that you considered as well?
Yeah, or probably let's make
Yeah.
it,
It is.
let's frame like this.
It is
Well,
actually.
if other companies would like to collaborate with different companies, what sort of things that they have to ensure, to make sure that the company that they're going to work with, not just, gaining for profit, but also they are projecting for net zero emission. Do you have some approaches for that?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing this for my grandchildren.
Okay.
And I see Reza with that kind of mindset as well. He understands this as well in that way. Indonesia, I think, is ripe for these for a net zero reality. I think there's so much opportunity here in Indonesia, and plus the people of Indonesia appear to really embrace transition into net zero.
Yeah, because
Also
And
to your
Pak Reza.
question, also to question earlier.
yeah.
This is exactly, I think, the spirit of the G20, in terms of how, as the top 20 biggest economic country of the world, is showing under the Indonesia presidency, the collaboration at work.
Yeah.
I mean, people can just talk, right? But this is a real example in terms of how the biggest economy of the world, and Indonesia is going to be also one of the future biggest economy of the world, number 4, number 5 by 2040, and this is the spirit of how a nation of the bigger economy, the G20, is collaborating to create a better world of the future.
Yeah, and this involves technology. Like, how would you explain to us, like, what kinds of technology you can provide and benefit the user can get, especially Indonesians? We know that the younger generation always use the technology and they're familiar with it. But how about like to a wider consumers and users? How would your
Yeah.
product can
Basically,
help
how to
it?
attract
Yeah.
more people.
Well, the platform it's a software-based application, And we use various technologies and software engineering. It's cloud. We use cloud. We use AI, machine learning, and also blockchain as well to create a decentralization aspect within the platform.
And coming back just to support what John was just saying earlier, in terms of socializing this energy transition, the carbon neutral initiative, right? What is interesting day one when I saw John's technology is how he make the socialization and also the education fun and easy. Using the digital through the gamification that you have. So, like for example, okay, kids or even us as family leaders, in a family, we can calculate our carbon footprint, right? So it is a gamification approach, so that will make it attractive for every individual to participate in terms of not only to understand about the importance of the carbon neutral initiative, right, or the carbon footprint, but the way of how it is being created is fun. So it's easy to understand. And then after that is an approach of how to engage them to the next stage. So I think that is what is interesting, what I see from autonomy.
Yeah, that's from the platform, and then you can get it into like the energy transition itself is pretty new, maybe for if we're talking about like all Indonesians, if we want to reach all Indonesians, especially, we have this target in 2060 or even earlier. And how do you think that you can grab the wider users for that? Because like educating about energy transition is it is moving forward, but
it's about changing
still
mindset.
not. Yeah, it's still not there yet.
Mindset is
Yeah.
Right. But I think education really is a focus. I think we really, all of us, need to become more educated on what it is to live a green lifestyle. And so within, referring to what Reza was mentioning, within the platform, once you register, you have a dashboard that you see, and it's called the Sustainability Lifecycle Dashboard. And you'll see right there where you are in your journey. And you'll start off with registering and calculating your carbon footprint. Once you do that, there's a little checkbox that says, okay, I've done that. Okay? So then the next phase is offsetting your carbon footprint. Okay? After they do that, then there's the learn, educating themselves. Before they can reduce, because the focus really is reducing, I think people need to learn about what it takes to reduce your carbon footprint. So then we have courses that, this is in the roadmap, that they take the classes on sustainability, and then once they finish those classes, then they can reduce their carbon footprint. They can reduce those areas because they'll get a report that shows where they are as far as their home, the mode of transportation they choose to use, food, clothing, all that, and then basically give pointers on where they can reduce their carbon footprint in those areas. And then when they come back to the platform and say, yeah, I bought a energy efficient car, either hybrid or electric vehicle, then they register that car into the platform, and then they get Gaia, which is the cryptocurrency, and as a perk for doing a sustainable
Do you have some words,
activity.
Pak Reza?
Yes, adding to what John, because you mentioned on how, right, to
Yeah.
put everybody to the bandwagon, right? So autonomy is the technology platform to help to assist.
Yeah.
But to make everybody to be involved, I think it really need the whole ecosystem to participate. So it's not just me or autonomy that is driving this with the government, but I think every aspect of the whole ecosystem, not only the communities, not only the private sectors or the businesses, also including the university, the schools, elementary schools, as even the higher education, everyone need to be involved. And this is a tool that to support in terms of how that everyone can engage together, not only government, right, but not only private sectors, but also every individual from all walk of life.
Yeah, because it's okay that we are focusing on the G20 summit, that it is has the goal for the energy transition and how we can also educate it wider about the energy transition, sustainability, and everything else. So this can be our hope that after the G20 is not only ends at G20,
Yes, right.
but it will go
Creates
even
more awareness
creates
in
more
public.
awareness, and even better and better, and then you will go beyond.
Yeah, and probably the concept of electric vehicles can be adopted by other countries,
Of course.
not
Yeah.
just for big event like this, but for on daily basis.
Right. We're even in talking about this, it's important to start small, but also to start in the ground, right? And in one of our investment startup in regarding to community empowerment and also sustainable financing, we're also starting an example of a village in Indonesia, where this is going to be an example village of how sustainability development, circular economy is being developed, including that in that area, the motorcycle, the ambulance, the transportation vehicle is from electric. And
Yeah.
the source of the energy is from the solar panel that is linking to this village. So we're also, creating this kind of example in terms of how we can start from the ground, not from the big cities, but from the village in Indonesia.
Yes.
And the location is in the eastern part, right? So we're starting from the most so-called difficult areas. If it can happen in the eastern part of Indonesia, it can happen everywhere else around the
Exactly.
world. So that's the
Yeah.
message that we're
That's
trying
the
to say.
message.
Ah,
And,
okay.
speaking
yeah.
about the example, practical example, just like what we have in this G20 electric vehicles, I want to go to Mr. Williams. Do you have some reference? I know you're a researcher and software engineer. Do you have like some sort of reference in a certain countries that can be a good example of energy transition so far? Something like applying electric vehicles and green ecosystem in a huge area, something that can be exemplified.
I would say in the United States, we have a benefit of having the states being able to be their own regions where they can experiment. And I see, there's California. They've done many different things as far as sustainability. And also Europe. Europe has transitioned a lot of their economy to get towards net zero.
Okay.
Yeah, and your app Earthonomy would play like a big part to support that as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But from a grassroots perspective, the platform is voluntary. Okay, so governments, they can mandate, through regulation, they can have, carbon tax and things like that. But that's not always doable in every country, And so this platform really looks at it from a grassroots perspective, and it's voluntary. So individuals and companies can participate in this economy immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you see it why you also choose to be partnered with Pak Reza? Do you see like Indonesia has a great potential for this mission to support the net zero emission?
Oh yes, I think this is a great opportunity for Earthonomy to work with the Net Zero Hub to help, because basically we'll be working with the other partners on the Net Zero Hub implementation team to onboard Indonesian businesses into a zero economy.
Yeah, but if there are some opportunities, there are also some challenges. So how the challenges and what are the challenges that you've been facing so far, if we're focusing in Indonesia?
Right. Well, I would say scaling.
Scaling.
Yes, because it right now the process to calculate carbon footprint of a company can be somewhat expensive, and because it takes specific type of expertise to do so.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to lower the costs by by implementing software automation. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Pak Reza? What are the opportunities and challenges
Indonesia.
for the the
Collaboration.
collaboration between you
You're a
two?
business person, you know,
Right.
the ecosystem, the regulation.
Right.
How do you see this?
Yes. I think the opportunities is there, is clear, right? Because just like what John just mentioned, that by having this tools, but at the same time, it's not just about the tools of the technology, but also the knowledge that comes in terms of educating people, how to onboard them, right? Just like John mentioned, for a company to establish a roadmap for their carbon footprint and carbon net zero is not cheap, right? But through the initiative of autonomy, what they're doing is that they try to reduce that. So it's not only big corporation that can participate, but also the small medium enterprises.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
Indonesia
That
have
would
a
be
lot
really
of that,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
So by doing this, actually we're assisting that everyone, just like what John mentioned earlier, not only the individual level, not only the big corporation, but also the SME, which that is the base of Indonesian economy.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, that's the key differentiation what autonomy is bringing in the table. And that's why when I saw that, this is perfect because it's really matching to the Indonesia environment. And
Yeah.
of course, not only Indonesia environment, but also the developing countries.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like John mentioned, we're not here just for the money. Of course, being businessman, you have to make money, right, to continue, right?
Yeah.
But
It's
it's
business.
about the social impact, right?
Yeah.
How to participate in changing to create a better world, not for us, but probably for our grandchildren.
Yeah.
Our time is limited.
Exactly.
Just like
Just like yesterday,
what's
right?
written on the summit.
Well,
Exactly.
well, actually, in the United States, the backbone of business of our economy is small
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
I probably is the case everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
biggest challenge would be, as the global challenge is, how can someone or some people run a business while, projecting for the net zero emission? That would be the biggest challenge. Because the pattern, I would say, mostly the companies are in linear economic, isn't it? But now that's a challenge. This is all about mindset,
Yes.
changing
You're right.
perspective.
Exactly. And also about changing perspective, that's one, agree. And that's why autonomy is trying to do that, right? We're trying to participate in that. But at the end, it's about the heart. Do you want to change? Or do you want to still have your ego because you would like to chase your bottom line? And then you want to transit on a better energy or a better way of, sustainability way of doing business. So I think what we're trying to send the message also is that, do you have the heart
Yeah.
to change? Do you want to have the heart to create a better world? And how do we start that? It starts today by us individually, and that is what autonomy is all about.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
message that we're trying to send.
And I
Do
think
you wanna
global
say something?
citizens, they're
Exactly.
demanding for companies to be more sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's very difficult right now to know which ones are focused on sustainability and not greenwashing. Okay, so it basically it's a one platform where you can go to find out which ones are doing that, and then do business with them.
Yeah.
And if they don't come into the platform, there's something wrong. Probably they're doing, that actually, like John said, greenwashing, or probably they want to portray themselves as something
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah.
they're doing something, but they're
It
not
doesn't
doing
come from the heart because
Exactly.
if it comes from the heart,
You participate.
your intention will go sustain.
Yes.
And that's the goal
Yes.
of it. If you want to change the world, you have to change yourself first,
Yes.
and then it gets bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And then as you mentioned
Yeah.
before, it's
Coming back to your what you just said, I attended the summit, and the government, the coordinating minister for economic affairs,
Yeah.
he said something like, "I don't do this for myself, or not merely for my countries.
Yes.
I do this for my grandchildren."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so touching.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I'm
And-
listening to the scientists. This is science-based, okay?
Right.
And they've been sounding the alarms for quite some time. And I think now we're actually seeing what the scientists have been talking about over the last few decades. We're seeing it now in real time. And I think it's waking a lot of people up.
Yeah, that's why we have to be awake because as you mentioned earlier that we are fighting with time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
And
now,
also patience, I think, because what we're aiming for is not happening tomorrow
Yeah.
or next week.
Yeah.
It needs patience. You agree about it?
You're right. Not only patient. That's why probably on this opportunity, it's not that we're not trying to push, pushing autonomy, but how we have to start today.
Yeah.
And how do you start today? Just enter the autonomy platform, right? Register yourself, calculate your carbon footprint, and then act on it. How you gonna become individually carbon neutral?
Go get yourself educated.
And as you're doing that, probably you start thinking about your business, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You said, okay, I'm doing it for myself, my family. Probably tomorrow, then I'm gonna start doing it for my business. And that's how we start doing things. Have to start with a small step, right?
Yeah.
And then once people are coming into the platform, they're registering, they're having their roadmap and plan about their carbon footprint or their roadmap, then we are all then encourage the bigger company,
Yeah.
right? And if they're not in there, and they don't have that score, how you call that? The scoring, from the bronze to the platinum, right? And if they are not participating, hey, that's mean you're not serious.
Yeah, one thing at a time, one day at a time.
Yes.
So once again, we are fighting with time,
Yes.
and now we have to have
a little
some
break.
time, and we'll be right back.
Okay, thank you for staying with us.
Yes, we're
in our
still-
special topic today, addressing the industrial decarbonization, or probably in simple way, new energy transition. And we today with some
Very special
very
guest.
special guest.
Okay, so next to me is John M. Williams, the CEO of Earthonomy. It's a digital platform that actually can change everyone's life who wants to participate in changing the world, to make the world a better place by contributing,
Participating.
experience it, like live it day by day to be finally net zero emission. Yeah, even in your own household, because it is actually very, very important. It's supporting as well the economic, circular economy, right?
Right.
Yeah, and also Pat is a business person, but now he's heavily involved in sustainable development, including the issue about energy transition.
Yeah.
And well, as the demands of global challenges these days, and I think we need to find some sort of a new model of business. And these days, a concept of circular economy has been widely discussed. And what do you think about this concept, Mr.
Well,
Williams?
for the last 150 years, our economic model has been linear, which really doesn't factor in the cost of carbon at all. It's basically, take the raw materials, make a product, and then just dispose of the product. And we're seeing what that has done to the planet. Carbon emissions in the atmosphere is warming our planet. We have landfills that's destroying our soil, and pesticides going into the ocean. And of course the plastics in the ocean, right? Circular economics is a change where basically the carbon is planned. For example, plastic use is planned within the whole process. And the idea is to use as little plastic as possible throughout the whole life cycle of the product. And in a lot of cases, there's ways you can do it without using plastic. And of course, we've seen where short-term plastic use, single-use plastic, has led to the issue of the plastic in the ocean. Circular economics is basically planning the use of the plastic and other raw materials to have the least amount of impact on the planet.
Yeah.
But do you have some words about circular economy?
Yes, I think the UN started by having the Sustainable Development Goals, right? Where Indonesia is also participating in that goal, and even in our Ministry of Village Development and Transmigration is also we add the the component number 18 in terms of the participation of the village. So what happened is that I'm a person that I would like to to implement the concept really from the grassroots. So what we have invested in one of a startup digital that is focusing on this sustainable community empowerment, but also on the circular economic concept. So there is a village in the eastern part of Indonesia that at the moment for the last 1 year and a half that we've been focusing in terms of how to bring this village that has the concept of development based on a sustainable and circular economy. So what we did is that starting by establishing a sustainable agro initiative, what we call the agroforestry. So combining of the agriculture, plantation, livestock, for example, like cow, chicken, but also linking to the conservation of the forest and linking also to the ecotourism. So it becomes a model of an integrated economic development that is focusing on sustainability and also on the circular economy. An example, we started by bringing the young generation in that village, what we call the Forum Anak. So basically, Forum Anak is children from the 4th elementary school, SD kelas 4, until the high school children. So we formed this a group of children where their focus is on environmental issues, where their focus is on waste management. So the idea, by educating them from the early stage, they have the right mindset already. That's one. Second, what we do is that they become the ambassador in their household. For example, their mom just finished cooking, right? And they're throwing things to the threshold. So probably then what they do, they're gonna burn the trash, or they're gonna throw it to the
That's the usual one.
So then, by being the ambassador, because they're educated, they can say to their mom and dad, don't do that because you are, creating this problem to the world. So, and it's very effectively. And what happened, because of that result of just educating this group of children, this village last year got an award from our Ministry of Environmental and Forest as the Pro Iklim Award. And it's a #1 ranking award. So this is just by doing something together with the grassroots, you can see how they can change as a community. That's one. Second, we are also now moving next year on the agrofishery. So creating the vessel of the communities by using electric ship, small ship. So that way it's also participating in terms of the transportation or the equipment to go fishing that is already, energy transition. And also next year we're building a solar farm so that they can be also independent in terms of full renewable energy. So this is I can tell you many more, but this is just an example of how we can start doing things at the grassroots level. Because if we can start doing it from the grassroots level, it means that we can also, if everybody starting the village is doing it, then automatically the whole Indonesia is doing the green transition. The whole Indonesia is doing sustainable economic development. The whole Indonesia is practicing the circular economy. We are now in the process of installing a machine made by Indonesian engineer, where basically the household waste, you just put it into the waste, it will separate which one's the plastic, and then the non-plastic, they would make it like a dedak. Dedak is like, it's an opportunity where you can use that for the feed for the livestock. So that is where the circular economy comes around. So this is not a concept or a theory. This is, again, an implementation that's at work. My concept has always been simple: start small, you think big, and you move fast. So this is probably the spirit that we're trying to do it together.
And it's very good that it's been realized for these past few years, and more people in Indonesia have been aware how important it is to change your mindset, to change your lifestyle. And I agree with you. It starts with the younger generation, like even that from elementary school, or even younger, like they now know how to divide which recycled trash, where should you put your trash to the green one or the yellow or the
Bucket.
red one.
The red bucket.
The bucket, yeah.
Segregation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think it's very effective. Do you think it's effective that it's already been effectively, you know, being, yeah, yeah, like to be told and to be educated to the people and to gain the awareness of them, because that's what the circular economy is about. It has to be effectively and being sustained at the same time.
I think it has to go hand in hand, the education process, but at the same time, the implementation of the how aspect, right? That's why the reason we choose to start on the village level, because then let's say you choose the group of the youngster, right? You educate them, and you start letting them to start doing it, to do, for example, the recycling process, and then how the recycling process linked to the waste bank, for example. So it's not just education, but also after you educate, how do you implement it? And you need to walk together, and that I think is the way of doing it, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And hopefully this G20 with the mission of the sustainable and net zero emission, where also energy transition can inspire more people, and it doesn't stop here. Do you have
Right.
any like message maybe that you would like to say to the viewers, and like your platform can help it, like how?
Absolutely. Well, like the initiative that Reza was mentioning, the platform will be able to integrate with these kind of programs. In fact, there's on the roadmap, we're going to have it, you know, in social media apps, there's groups, like, you know, other social networking platforms, there's groups. Well, that grouping concept will be, in Earthonomy, will be where there's sustainability zones, okay, economic zones. And so for this region that is participating in, you know, in the circular economy, there'll be a group that's a zone, and the members will, you know, register and be part of this zone, and it can, you know, help grow the awareness of what, and have the participants collaborate with one another for this. But then also get the awareness out that, you know, other regions, other areas within Indonesia, they can do the same thing. And scale it out, so there's more than just this area that's doing it, and have it
Learn
done.
from each other, John.
Learn from each other.
Learning
exactly.
from each other.
Yeah, absolutely, because we need hundreds of thousands of these kind of initiatives.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of Earthonomy,
That's
is
the
to help
purpose.
scale that.
Right. And Pak Reza, same question goes to you. G20 presidency is coming really soon, and plenty of delegates will be appearing here. What do you expect from this presidency? You know, your personal perspective.
Yes. I think, you know, the theme of Indonesia was recover together,
Okay.
recover stronger,
That's
right?
such a strong message.
Strong message. So I think during this presidency, as people come together, you know, let's forget about the politics, right? Let's forget about, you know, the egos. Let's think for the future, for our grandchildren. If that is our focus, then we will be able to have the spirit that Indonesia is promoting, to recover together, to recover stronger. So that way together we can use this momentum from Bali, you know, and we can then bring it home to each of our home in 20 countries, and also many more countries, because we're inviting more than 20 countries, so that the spirit of the G20 this year, that we are gathered here together in the island of God, right? That we can then bring it back and continue this momentum, continue this spirit of togetherness to create a better world. And
Yeah.
forget about politics, forget about, you know, all the differences,
Yeah.
because you know, Indonesian motto is unity.
We're living in the same world.
And
in
nobody
diversity, right?
gets left behind.
Yes,
right?
nobody's
Yeah.
left behind.
Nobody gets left
Nobody's
behind.
left behind.
I feel inspired from what you just said.
Yeah, and also maybe it is good that it is happening in Bali,
Yes.
the summit, because Bali is one of the provinces in Indonesia that started for the plastic free.
Yes.
So yeah, it goes like it's synergy with the mission from the G20 this year for Indonesia's presidency. So yeah, hopefully that our dream to make the world a better place by creating net zero emission by 2060 can be achieved or even earlier with the help of your platform and also your inspiring words that it has to start from the heart.
Yeah, hopefully there'll be more people like me who can get inspired, via this summit to be more educated, get themselves familiar with, this issue because our time is limited while we're living, in the same world.
Yeah.
And also, hopefully, together that the U.S. being the biggest economy in the world, Indonesia today where we are, and hopefully this example of what we're trying to do together here, me and John, could be inspiring to others that this kind of collaboration to create a better world can happen between the developed countries and the developing countries.
Yes.
So and that's what G20 is all about, right?
Yeah, we have one goal, that's to make the world a better place for many areas in many sectors. Right. So once again, thank you very much, John, the CEO of Earthonomy, and also Pak Reza Valdo Mas Paitela, the President and CEO of PT Valdo Investama. Thank you very much for joining us today on TVR World G20 Overview.
So, what's next, Icha?
Okay, now we have more news regarding the G20 Indonesia presidency as TVR World is the official host broadcaster for G20 Indonesia presidency, so stay tuned.